I'm casting my 11th vote to reopen the government. Many of these have centered on the same legislation that the U.S. Senate under Republican control has already approved, and yet they've avoided taking a stance and considering these measures because President Trump changed his mind. That's the difficulty of trying to resolve a government shutdown that is putting such an unfair burden on many of our public service workers, from the folks at the prisons in Bastrop to the Border Patrol to the folks that work at IRS or at agriculture in the Central Texas area. They ought not to be turning to the food bank to put food on the table and worrying whether they're going to be evicted from their home or their apartment as a result of not getting the paycheck that they've earned. I'm concerned for them, and I'm concerned for all who rely on services of our federal government. The challenge that is presented by President Trump with his recent so-called compromise deserves some analysis also. He's basically saying, if you don't like my wall idea, I'll call it a fence. And if you think that it's wrong to build it of concrete, I'll build it of steel. But I want every dime of my $5.7 billion wasteful down payment on a multi-billion-dollar wall from the Gulf to the Pacific. That is a waste and a wrong that he is proposing, and it's not a compromise. And as for his suggestion that he would provide some protection for our dreamers who certainly deserve protection, I think of the cardiac nurse I visited with. I think of the teachers with whom I've had discussions. I think of a county prosecutor and many students who are out there who are dreamers that are doing their part to contribute to our community after passing a criminal background check. All that he offers them is about the same level of protection that they have from the courts currently. A temporary pass that wouldn't even get a dreamer from entering college to completion with any assurance, that would not allow for a good long-term job, is not protection. And so the president's created the impression that he's willing to discuss issues on that and on the temporary status for some refugees who came to America as a result of natural disasters in Central America. That is a phony compromise. It's as phony as his made-up crisis at the border, which is a crisis he's created when he separated children from their mothers, but not a crisis of any invasion or threat to our security. I hope we can find a resolution soon to this growing crisis. It's a crisis that all of us are beginning to feel in terms of economic growth as well. About $1.5 billion to $2 billion cut out of the economic growth in our country every week that the Trump shutdown continues. So much so that Trump's top economic advisor recently said that he thought we might have zero growth this year if this shutdown is not ended. President Trump has the power to do it. We're ready to try in good faith to join in a reasonable compromise, but not one that takes us backward. I look forward to continuing to get your comments and advice and doing everything I can to work hard to see that we get this concluded in a favorable way.